Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 10 o'clock news on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Jeanelle Slade.
And I'm Jay Cohn. 2 people are dead following a head-on crash this morning near Fromberg. One
of the victims, a 56-year-old Billings man. The other, a 16-year-old Joliet High School student. Both drivers died at the scene.
Families, communities, and schools reeling tonight as word of this accident spreads.
The crash happened around 7:45 this morning on Highway 310 just north of Fromberg. Montana Highway Patrol says a Dodge Ram driven by the 16-year-old Joliet student was headed north when it crossed over into the southbound lane for unknown reasons and collided head-on with the Ford pickup.
Now, the boy's 12-year-old sister was also injured in the crash. She's being treated for broken bones but is expected to be okay. The Billings victim was not wearing a seatbelt at the time of the crash. Authorities say both of the teenagers were buckled up.
Although authorities have not officially released the names of the victims, we do know much more about one of the drivers.
The death of 16-year-old Paul McKay has Joliet High School and its football team rallying around their friend and teammate. Q2's David Jay had a chance to talk with the coach and some of the players tonight after their practice. David?
Well, Jay, Jeanelle, Coach George Warburton says the team motto has been forte, or strength, and he has used football adversity for life lessons. Today, players and coaches called upon that strength for the team, school, and community. Warburton says the team had a great practice today. The Jayhawks prepared for their playoff game on Saturday against Scobie. In honor of Paul McKay, the players will have number 70 stickers on their helmets, number 70 on the field, and will sell T-shirts with the phrase, "Play for Paul." Coach Warburton says the practice today was the first step for the team in handling the death of a friend.
Our coach has been really well about teaching us adversity this year, and it's been a really good life lesson, not knowing this is going to happen, but when it did happen, we were there and we were strong enough to handle it.
We had adversity at the beginning of the year, but we didn't know something like this was going to happen at this time of the year, so it was a very good practice for what kind of day it was for us.
Paul McKay had one of the brightest smiles that I've ever seen. Every time I'd see him, he'd tell me hello. He made it a point to say hi to us and to all the other adults and kids, and so he was he's a bright spot at our community for sure.
And Coach Warburton says the players will paint number 70 on the field in honor of Paul McKay tomorrow afternoon. Also, the Carbon County Sheriff says he will release the names, including the name of the 56-year-old man from Billings, tomorrow. Jay?
All right, thanks so much, David.
Investigators are making progress tracking down the mailing locations of 10 suspected bombs that were sent to prominent critics of President Trump.
CBS News correspondent Hillary Lane reports from New York City, where a couple of those packages were found.
CBS News has learned this postal facility in Opelika, Florida is one focus of the investigation into who sent 10 suspected bombs to Democrats critical of President Trump. Sources tell CBS some of the packages may have been processed at the facility after they were mailed in South Florida. Investigators are combing through video footage at mail facilities and stores. Former Vice President Joe Biden was one of the targets of the 2 package bombs.
We've got to turn off this hate machine. We got to come together.
The packages intended for Biden looked like the others, with the return address of Florida Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
We will never be cowed into submission by people who hate.
Actor Robert De Niro was another target of one of the packages. Police say it was sent to his production studio right here in the Tribeca neighborhood of Manhattan. None of the suspected bombs detonated, but investigators still consider them potentially dangerous.
We're taking this seriously. We are treating them as live devices.
Postal inspectors have been on the lookout for similar packages in the mail system.
We have over 600,000 postal employees out there right now, so we have their eyes and ears looking for these packages. I will say in the postal network, we have found nothing in the last 8 hours.
The devices are all being examined at an FBI lab in Quantico, Virginia. Hillary Lane, CBS News, New York.
Investigators still don't know if the devices were poorly designed, which prevented them from detonating, or if they were just meant to scare the recipients.
Our MTN MSU pre-election poll revealed a lot about where Montanans stand on the races and issues they'll be voting on in November.
Our survey also asked some other questions to find out how voters feel about the job those already in office are doing, and what about the direction that the country is heading.
Q2's Russ Riesinger joins us now with more. Russ.
2,000 Montana voters participated in our MTN MSU poll. One of the questions we asked is whether they approve or disapprove of the way our elected politicians are handling their jobs. And here's what we found out. President Trump won Montana by a landslide and still enjoys wide popularity among Republicans. In fact, he's got the highest approval rate of any of our politicians.
I am thrilled to be back in Big Sky country with so many of my great friends and true American patriots. Thank you. Thank you.
55% of voters we polled say they approve of the way the president is handling his job. 44% disapprove. Democratic Governor Steve Bullock had the second highest approval rating, 54%, while 35% disapproved of the job the governor is doing. Very respectable numbers in a red state. Republican Senator Steve Daines fared well. Daines had a 53% approval rating and the lowest disapproval rating at 31%. Congressman Greg Gianforte had the lowest approval rating at 48%. 42% disapprove of the job he's doing. But it was Democratic Senator Jon Tester who had the highest disapproval rating at 45%. Still, Tester has almost total support from Democrats and a big lead with independents.
So what does that mean? Well, it means this. Tester is doing well among those independents, and it suggests that maybe the Trump coming to the state might actually help among that critical voting group.
One issue that all voters we polled felt strongly about is illegal immigration, something Tester's opponent, Matt Rosendale, and other Republicans have been playing up.
That is Rosendale's bid to basically try to peel off some Democrats and, most importantly, peel off independents. 62% of independents basically agree or strongly agree that legal immigration is a problem, and it's near universal among Republicans.
We also asked voters whether they think the country is headed in the right direction. Almost all Republicans said it was. Almost all Democrats said it was not.
Independents are critical here because essentially 48% of independents say the country is going in the wrong direction. Again, a sign to me that there's dissatisfaction with the federal government.
How that all plays out on Election Day remains to be seen, but it's clear that which way those independent voters end up going could have a big impact on who comes out on top. I'm Russ Riesiger, MTN News.
All right, thanks, Russ. Well, have you received a prepaid debit card after a recent visit to the hospital in Billings? If so, you might be part of a class action lawsuit that was filed last week in Yellowstone County District Court. A Billings woman now suing the parent company of St. Vincent Healthcare, SCL Health, after the hospital overcharged her for a medical visit, then gave her a prepaid debit card in response. Now, the suit is filed individually on behalf of Billings resident Cheryl Bratton, but her legal team is asking who else may be impacted. Back in June, Bratton was overcharged $12 after a visit to St. V's. Her lawyer, John Heenan, says a third of the people never activate these debit cards. Plus, he says there are fees to withdraw the cash. We did reach out to St. Vincent Healthcare Hospital President Steve Levzus. He told us he cannot comment on the suit, but adds that they are taking the claim very seriously.
Turning to weather, Bob, the winds of change are here.
We had some breezy conditions this morning, had a little shortwave move through, even some sprinkles in downtown Billings, and then that moved away. Now what's going to happen next? Well, let me show you. There's the stuff we had earlier this morning. That has moved out of the way. Now, it looks like by Friday, another batch of moisture is moving in. Another cold front's going to blow clean through on Friday, on into Saturday. It'll bring rain showers with it, windy conditions as well, and you'll continue to see cooler temperatures. So what is going to happen with this? Well, we're still looking at some pretty gusty winds, especially in the area highlighted in red. That's around Livingston on up towards Harleton. Peak wind gust forecast shows it's going to be very breezy tonight right on through Saturday. And in the yellow, that's 40 to 55 mile per hour winds. That's the one that does include Billings. And all that stays with us through tonight, tomorrow, and again through Saturday afternoon. Your other forecast, the one that goes likely for the next week or so, we'll talk about that in a few more minutes.
All right. Thanks so much, Bob.
Still ahead on tonight's 10 o'clock news, the future of expanded Medicaid in Montana hangs in the balance. But what will happen to it after November 6th? We'll bring you a closer look.
And later in sports, Scott shows us which 3 Billings soccer teams are ticketed for tomorrow's state semifinals.
You're watching MTN News with Jay Cohn and Jeanelle Slade. Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire. And sports with Scott Green. This is the 10 o'clock news on Q2, Montana's news leader.